you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Al. Next, we're going to go to purchasing and warehouse, and that is on page 23. Okay. Thank you. That's fine. Oh, they would do.
They were
It's two.
no.
Okay.
I brought David to help. He's my buyer here in purchasing. I brought him because he's very instrumental in putting our budget together and just getting out some quotes and things like that for us. Making some arrangements for some training. So, and in addition to that, we're just putting him through the
ringer.
yeah. Yeah. I won't be here much longer. So somebody's got to take over. We'll go ahead and get started with purchasing first. I oversee the purchasing department and warehouse. So we'll get started, and purchasing is on page, let's see.
23.
23. And I'll go ahead and let him take over.
All right. So of course, I'm with the purchasing department, and we have 4 employees in the purchasing department. Of course, Fran is our purchasing director. There's myself and Carla Chavez. We are both buyers within the city. And we also have 1 procurement specialist, Brenda Resendez. She handles a lot of our invoices and takes care of a lot of things for us. So in doing our budgets, we pretty much stayed the same as the previous year. But we did have a few areas where we had some exceptions of, like we just talked about with training. The main one, training, which is our 4704 account, we're planning on doing is actually bringing in a couple of people. One of them is Terry Davenport, to be able to conduct a procurement training in sorts, not so much high level, but give everybody within the city that has anything to do with purchasing. That'll include mayor, city council, supervisors, directors, anybody involved in it, to kind of be able to get a good understanding of what we do and what state purchasing guidelines puts us through. Also, along with that, we're going to have Brian Colon, which is part of the New Mexico State Auditing as well, and kind of give you another aspect of why we do what we do, why we need our CPOs, which Brand has a CPO, and actually myself and Carla have one, and what we need those for. Because a lot of the times for funding and grants and stuff, you do need a certified procurement officer in office to be able to do that. So he'll kind of give everybody an idea of what we do, why we do what we do within purchasing.
Just like to add that we would like to make it mandatory for anybody who deals with procurement, because what's happening now, and this is the barriers that we have, is that a lot of people don't quite understand what it is we do. They think that we just get a bunch of money and we get to just go shopping, and that's not what we do. We are here to be diligent fiscal agents, for us, and to try to get the best obtainable pricing, and so we're doing it, as well as staying in compliance with procurement code that we did not set. That's set by the state. So we want somebody to come in that's familiar, that knows what's going on, that can actually explain it in addition to what we do. When, for example, somebody comes on board, we give them a procurement training, we give them a user guide. We just want somebody to come in and just kind of reiterate that it is coming from state level, and that we need this to stay in compliant and to have favorable audits, which we have. So it's very important that we get that understanding out to everybody. So we've been trying to come up with a way to get the message across and to get that just belief by everyone that does not work in procurement and get a better understanding for what it is we do. So continue.
And also part of this training bump that we did, we're working possibly with IT in instituting some learning management systems. They're going to be online. There's going to be something that we'll be able to actually produce and create with our own policies and procedures. And it's going to be for your P cards and like purchasing. The main reason why we want to do that is to kind of keep it fresh in everybody's mind instead of just the one time when you get your P card and then you forget about everything. Whereas this way we'll be able to schedule it out and actually have yearly kind of refreshers for everybody that has a P card. And it kind of keeps us in compliance with audits. That way we can kind of show that we've got a handle on the P card system and not just free spending wherever we're at. So that's part of the training bump and what we're trying to do.
The P cards are like credit cards?
They're a purchasing card with the city, yes.
And then how many employees throughout the city have those?
I believe, is there 125?
We have about 65.
65
cards issued out.
So yeah, 65 cards.
We used to have way more, and we've kind of taken it down a little bit, where we only allow so many within the police department, not to cause inconvenience, but to keep that control in place.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. And
Let's see. So that covers basically our training portion of why we've kind of asked what we've asked for. Next one we do have is what's in our 4820 capital. We're asking for a smart board purchase. To kind of give you a little history on it. So of course, when COVID went through, of course, everybody had to go virtual. Part of our virtual steps, what we did is we purchased an online bidding system. So that allowed us to be able to accept bids online in a digital manner and not have to have everybody bring it to our office in person. So with that, we've kind of evolved into doing more Zoom meetings to do a lot of our bid openings. So currently right now, like I said, we've got 4 employees. For us to be able to conduct one of these meetings, it's 4 employees in the same office and 4 separate offices on computers doing the same meeting. With this board, we'll be able to centralize inside our conference room and be able to do this meeting as a group and as a whole, instead of everybody being all separated out. The smart board has, all the basic computer capabilities. So we'll be able to have our bid opening on the screen, but also have the Zoom as well on the same screen. So that's the main reason why we want to move that, because it's just the next step in the evolution of what we've done with the online bidding system.
And that's the 5,700.
That's the 85.
85.
It says that
Down here, the
online bidding
4820.
system- I'm on
4820.
24. Oh, I'm on 24 and it says
in the detail.
geometric online bidding system. And it says Gallup. I'm super confused.
You might be looking at the subscription account.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
Look
right here.
under
Yeah.
4820.
4820, equipment and machinery.
oh, sorry, I wasn't all the way. Okay, yeah, I'm looking at the
Capital
subscription.
outlay. So
Okay, sorry about that.
no problem. No problem. So like I said, that just kind of, helps with the next step of that evolution. Everything else within our budget, we've kept it where it is. And it's basically due to what we do on a daily basis. We look for the right deals. We practice what we preach and try and keep our savings, up there. That's kind of where we kept our purchasing budget.
So for the most part, those are the only 2 changes. We're pretty flat and everything else. We have a small budget we operate with, but we create huge savings for everybody else. Do you have any other questions for purchasing? Other than that, we'll move on to warehouse.
Okay,
Good.
let's go to warehouse then. That's on page 27.
So I'm not sure if everyone knows, I'm not sure if we let Sarah know, but we do run the municipal warehouse over on the west end of town. And if you all didn't know, it's over on the west end of town. It's the biggest industrial building out in our buildings. We carry electrical, water, wastewater, and of course, paper goods such as tissue and janitorial goods, as well as coffee and those kind of supplies.
And how many employees are out there?
Get into that.
I'm sorry.
But I just
I
wanted to
forgot to
kind
give you the quiz, sorry.
right, but just to let you know, it's a big building. We carry a lot of inventory out there, and we're actually gonna do some cleanup here in May, and I was just kind of talking about it, and we're gonna throw it out to you all. We're gonna kind of make it as sort of an event, just to go out there and for you to take a walk around in there. It's an interesting building. It's huge. It's got lots of stuff in it. And I think you guys will have a better understanding as to what we all have in there and how much we purchase and have to replenish at any given time. So especially in this day and time, COVID really didn't help us. We are still dealing with long lead times for lots of supplies, lots of back orders. We had to really get on our game and start buying further back so that we can have transformers in, so that if anything happens, you know, on an emergency basis, we got materials ready to go. So it's not been easy for us, but we're trying to deal with what we have. So we will let you know when that is, and if anybody would like to attend, you're more than welcome. So I'll go ahead and let him get going on that as well.
All right, so to answer your question, we've got 3 employees out there, 1 warehouse supervisor, and 2 warehouse techs. All of them are forklift certified, so you know it's always good with the amount of stuff and the size of the stuff we've got out there. Now talking about our budgets, pretty much outside of 3 accounts, the budgets remain pretty much the same as we did last year. We had 1 big decrease, and that was in our other services. That is the 4590 account. So you'll see where we lowered that to completely 0 from 5,000 last year. So basically what that was a shredded service where we did a massive purge at the warehouse. There was years and years and years and years of stuff that was just sitting in top of a loft that we needed to kind of get rid of. So that was one of the bigger ones. We're not going to do that this year, mainly because we took care of a lot of it this past year. So that was one of them that we had the big decrease in. The other 2, we're expecting to have some more expense on them only because of what we're doing. So of course, the first one we're going to talk about is the 4611 account, and that would be the inventory shortages. So like Fran said, we're going to be going through it and really cleaning it up, getting a lot of stuff out of there. And this increase is to kind of write off some of our more dated, disintegrated. Literally last year when we were counting some of this stuff, we were finding the urinal cakes that were just completely dust. So it's something we can't issue out. We've got to write that off. So it's a lot of stuff like that. Old forms that's got mayors from 4 years ago that we need to get rid of. So that's a lot of the stuff we need to kind of get rid of, and why we're asking for a little bit more this year to be able to absorb some of that.
Why, just out of curiosity, why was it 2 years ago, 118,000? What was happening then?
We had some issues out at the warehouse.
That's
Since turned that entire thing around. We overhauled that. We completely changed out personnel. We brought in an auditing team and just got a lot of things straightened out. So that was a big, that we took a big hit there. But if you'll notice, years thereafter, we've had nothing in comparison to that. So I'm very proud of who we have out there. He was actually one of our custodians that we had here, so he had that mentality of being organized and clean, and he really cleaned things up and put things where they went. And so we did a big change around, and I'm grateful that we have who we have out there and the system. Moving forward, we've put it into our tenure, I believe, to get a actual barcoding system. So that's not only gonna help and to keep inventory shrinkage down. So we're moving to proactively make sure that that never happens again. So yes, you're right.
That's good. I mean, it's obviously a lot better.
Yeah,
But we brought in somebody to do, not exactly an audit, but a complete review. And some of the people that were here on council at the time remember that. And it was a major cleanup. And so it's just night and day.
Yeah, we've done a great overhaul out there. And like I said, I'm very proud of what it looks like now, physically and organizationally. And so that's why, after we do our, what we're basically going to do is get wastewater in there and get some of the dated materials that they no longer can use. And so after that's done, I just want you to kind of go in there and take a look at it and see what it is we do. So you'll get to see how much we deal with. So yes, the 100,000 was not good, but if you look at the years thereafter and you see the significant size of that warehouse and all that we have, you'll really recognize that we have done good since then. So,
And no perishable, right? No perishable items.
I think the most perishable item we have is vinegar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, and so like that's a perfect example. We got some vinegar, and I'm not sure what happened, but it got bad. So it got some things swimming around in it.
Oh, gosh.
And so we had to discard that. So that's what we needed the additional inventory shortage funding for. So there's certain things like that we have to. So we try to find a line where we don't put too much in inventory so that it doesn't go bad, but also have it available. So
Yeah. Great. And the last one, of course, is the 4451, the fuel account. Of course, with the cost of gas now, we're kind of expecting that to go up. So, we deliver, the warehouse does deliver a lot of the items that are on stock recs, the coffees, the toilet papers and stuff. They do deliver that to a lot of the departments in the city. So, so that's where we will use that fuel, and we're kind of expecting that bump just with the cost of fuel as it is now.
Just a really quick question. You've year to date actually spent 749, and it's not even halfway through the year, and you guys are estimating 1,100. And so my guess is that might be more than that, or am I just looking at that wrong?
The year to date would be 3/4.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, thank you. Okay, I was like, oh, you guys have already spent that much. I don't know. That seems like next year might be a lot more.
no.
Okay, that's 3/4. Okay, thank you.
Okay, if there,
Question? No question?
all right, thanks. Thank you. Good to see you, David, and go back to being on the budget committee.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tasha, do you want to go ahead and go? We'll do the city council and the city manager budget, and then we'll also do special activities, which is the 1025 fund. So we're going to try to go through 3 pretty fast. All right, so first is council, which is on page 5.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, Budget Committee. I tried to be as transparent as possible with your budget. This is just mainly for supplies, training, travel. There are some areas that you will see, like travel has definitely increased, and supplies. Those were the 2 areas that were significant in our increase due to just inflation. The cost of food, for instance, and supplies, it's kind of harder to get certain things. So I wanted to kind of plan for that for this upcoming year. And we seem to be doing a lot more work sessions and meetings. So I want to make sure that we are appropriately budgeted for those.
Mhm.
Does our discretionary funds fall within this or no?
On this one, no, this is under, the discretionary funds are going to be under special activities.
Okay,
in the
That's 1025. We'll get to that in
when
just a
we-
minute.
And
Yes.
I'll review that.
Thank you.
The travel, I just, because I don't know, and travel is that, obviously I know what travel is, but, and then does that include like if someone has to go, mayor or council has to go somewhere and they stay at a hotel, or no, is that usually on our own expense?
It'll be covered. So for instance, if you were to go for like the legislative session, this will cover your room. It'll cover your meals, any mileage reimbursement.
Okay,
Or sometimes, for instance, like Councilor Garcia, she's on the Southwest Regional, the Solid Waste Authority Board.
oh,
I
okay.
think I got that wrong. But she travels that and they're like in through Pruitt area.
And
So,
we're going to grants for the COG meeting.
Right.
So,
and I put that in there for that
We'll
since they're
post there on
starting to
mileage
meet
for
in
that.
person now. So, and as things are opening up and meetings are becoming in person now, I want to make sure I hit those mileage areas for you.
Thank you.
And then just the, you never know. I mean, I think if anything, we've seen just a significant increase on having advocacy for the city too. So there was a lot of travel that was required for that. Okay. All right,
job.
if you're good on that, we can move on to the city manager's budget, and that's page 9. And again, you're going to see an increase in travel. This is actually the year for Marianne to attend the ICMA conference. Her and JM tend to alternate every year. So I put in a line item for her on that. And just any kind of travel that might come up, especially around the legislative session time in January. We all know that's a busy month for everyone, especially administrative staff and council. And then also with supplies, again, I've just kind of noticed a trend in the increase of goods, cost of goods in this past year. So that's a little bit higher. Those were the only 2 areas where you're going to see an increase. I wish I could say our budget was flat, but
Does this cover for city manager and assistant city manager, or just city manager?
no.
No, I'm in the risk.
Oh, you're in the risk management.
Marianne and I.
Oh, you're married. Okay, sorry, I just trying to get all my bearings.
If you have any questions on these, I'm happy to answer. Okay, the 1025 is on page 34. 101 dash, oh, go ahead.
I have a question. What is uniforms for your department?
I'm sorry?
What is uniforms for you, for your department? Is that just t-shirts?
Those are polos, but we shouldn't have those on here. I don't think we do.
Oh, maybe there's not. Maybe I can't read this tiny. Oh, no, maybe it's 0. Sorry, I need a ruler.
Yeah, I didn't budget for that this year.
Okay.
I have several myself,
That's
so.
That's the max. Sorry, okay, thank you. I should have brought a ruler to like, I'll use mine. Thank you.
And so the special activities is page 34, and this is where you're going to find your budgeted line items for your discretionary funds. Each counselor and the mayor will get, I have put in for 30,000. Sorry, I'm still trying to find my page. Where we are.
30,000.
That doesn't include what you have carried over.
Yeah.
These funds don't go back.
This will be July 1.
Yeah, this is an additional, right?
So you have, you
Okay.
have projects that have been created for these. So even when the fiscal year ends, your project, your money, your funds are there and it rolls over. So this will be an additional 30,000 for whatever you have left at the end of this fiscal year. And I'm pretty good about knowing what your balances are. So if you ever need to know, let me know. I'm happy to send that to you. This is also where we pay, we have manager agreements like the Veterans Center. We also have like Boys and Girls Club. They're the only ones that have an increase for the Boys and Girls Club. And then our sub-grant recipients, we have contracts in place for them as well. Council of Government, they increased their dues slightly this year, so we accounted for that.
Go back up to fireworks too, just real quick.
Oh, right. And we
Yeah,
have fireworks
we
as well.
started out at 10 and then I think last year we did 15 and Ben is having a heck of a time getting someone to do the fireworks this year. So just giving you a heads up.
Well, the contractor that used to do it
they quit.
Right,
So they're
or retired or whatever, right? So he's really struggling to find somebody. So we put 20,000 in because we're hoping that that would be enough. So I just
Is that gonna
want to,
be enough, you think? I heard it was gonna be almost double. So. if it
well,
was, we
double,
were paying-
double
so that'd
10,
be
but
30,
oh, well, I
it'd be
had,
about 30.
but I told Ben just to get a proposal and then we'll bring it to you. So we just took a guess at 20, but it might be more.
Yeah, I mean, we could increase it now and give us a little bit more to play with, or, you know, come back and ask for additional funds from fund balance at a later date, however. you prefer us to do that.
Well, if you think 20 will do it.
If he
well,
can do you think he can get a proposal before May 10th?
I'll ask. him
Yeah, we'll
about
see,
that.
because, yeah,
Just had a hard time finding.
it's been very tough. Can't get employees, can't get fireworks vendors. That's very, anyway, I just wanted to mention that that was in special activities now. Go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
We also have various agreements in place like SWIFT per contract, you know, lots of where a lot of these amounts are from is based on what we have on contract with them.
In SWIFT too, because that's.
Right, the
that's-
20,000.
Yeah, so with the SWIFT, you know, there's other lodgers tax agreements, but this is actually the agreement that we have in the lease with them. And that, so they lease the cultural center, but we agree to put 20,000 a year in the budget for any major repairs. And they often don't need the money, but we did agree that we would budget 20,000 every year. It's not cumulative. If they don't use it, it goes away and then we budget again. So I just wanted to explain that that was separate from the lodgers tax.
Do they pay the regular, I thought in the contract, they pay the regular maintenance or we pay the regular maintenance on the
I
cultural
think we
center?
pretty much do the regular maintenance. Right?
So that's part of, that's just extra, like if we have something major?
Yeah, like like HVAC. I'm trying to think over the years when.
I think if it's over a certain amount per the contract, which is why we have it in there that we've agreed to pay for. Because like minor repairs, I think it's on them to do.
Yeah, but we do the custodial,
right.
We do the custodial. So yeah, I apologize. I haven't looked at the lease in a while. I just remembered we needed to put this 20 in because it's come up to haunt us if we forgot one year and we didn't have the money and some major thing happened like HVAC or something like that needed to be done. And we agreed to do those major repairs. So I just wanted to mention though, this was separate. This was related to the lease. You know when the lease expires? Do you remember?
No.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, I just wanted to point out this was different. Go ahead, Tasha.
I stand for any questions.
Okay.
Anything you would like more clarification on?
What do we pay the community pantry for?
We have a agreement in place with them. They provide a service to the community.
Actually, the county funded them and they came a couple of years, well, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago now, they came and actually made a request. And of course, because of anti-donation, Curtis, again, another one of his duties, came up with a way that we could contract with them for services for city residents who are low income. And that met the anti-donation criteria. So we actually have an agreement with them every year and we fund them if you put it in the budget, then we have a contract with them every year for services.
And they keep stats on the city residents are providing food boxes to.
Yeah, and they keep numbers. I mean, they
Yeah.
actually, because we did want to say that the county funds you. So she actually has a program for city residents, for people who are very low income, and they keep numbers.
And this one's in one of the gray areas, there's no doubt. Full transparency,
Yeah.
but it's not a bright line between what's allowed and what isn't. This one's out there on the edge of the cliff.
Yeah.
I absolutely love the community and I have absolutely no issues with them. It's just that I think it opens up the door to.
Yeah, you can see the contract that he did, and we'll share that with you so you can see. We exchange it for certain services. The other one just mentioned is Gallup Express. We are one of the few, if now only, rural transit services that's not run by the city. It used to be the Carrot Express and Grants. Does anyone know if that's still in business? But that was pretty much it. Every other one is run by the city. And we are so blessed that we can contract with a nonprofit to do the service. But they get federal funding that's passed through the state. And then this is basically our local match.
If we were to add that, my risk management budget would go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
All right.
All right, thank you, Tasha, appreciate it.
Just, do we want to talk
Oh,
about
I said, glad.
the new FTE position,
Oh, yes, actually, let's go.
page 76 in your book?
Thank you for reminding me. We actually just put a sheet in the budget, page 76. This is the new
It's
position.
a pretty
that's-
purple tab.
The purple.
Yeah, she actually put a
I saw that.
a purple tab. That's so Mary Ann wouldn't miss it, and I still did. So this is the position that I discussed at the strategic planning session. I have had a meeting with Patty Lundstrom and actually Jeff Kiley, and we are going to be talking about the city's role in economic development. I think we had a really good discussion. It's about 2 hours, kind of talking about what GGEDC does, and what Main Street does and what BID does, and then kind of what the city's role is. And I think we've kind of come to agreement that this is a unique position that will do the things for the city that GGEDC doesn't do by mission. They do economic-based jobs, but retail marketing and attraction, small business assistance, and also assistance with development, even housing projects, because that's considered economic development. Someone who can actually do outreach marketing and then also help work how can I say this, assist the businesses through the city process. Because a lot of small businesses kind of get lost in trying to figure out what to do, how to go through zoning, how to get a business license, how to get permits. And this is someone that can actually, so as I told Patty Lundstrom, you need a handoff when you do bring people to the city. And I know CB and I tried to do that in the few cases where they brought us someone, but they don't do the part that the city does. That's what the city does. We actually work with them to the permitting, the zoning, we're already working with some other businesses, but we're not helping small businesses through all the assistance that's available to them. We're not doing a lot of business retention. We're not going out and meeting with businesses, finding out what their issues are and trying to figure out what we can do to be more business friendly. And we're definitely not doing retail marketing. There isn't anyone that's doing that in the city, and that's been a priority of yours. And I know that the GGEDC board discussed it. I know the mayor's on the board, and I think that there was pretty much a decision by the board that they weren't going to do it, because I had even offered to bring the council a funding of a position for them in their organization to do that. But the board really wants to stick to their mission, which is economic-based jobs. But just an interesting statistic, and maybe it's changed because after COVID, but 80 to 85% of all new jobs created are created by small business.
Or what?
Created by small.
80 to 85% of all new jobs created in the country are created by small business. And that's probably 50 and under. I'm not saying, a micro business, but I'm just saying, so it's a piece of the economic development action that is just not being covered. And somebody's got to do it.
Marianne, has this position, I know we talked about this previously, has this been discussed at all, like with the chamber? Not that we have to get their approval, but just because I know they're doing a lot of business.
I
retention.
did talk to the chamber about that. Bill and I talked to everybody. After we had the discussion of strategic planning years ago, I reached out to GGDC. I sat down with Bill Lee. But I would say that the chamber, they focus. Is that like an ice cream man or something? Stop, wait, almost time for break. Anyway, let me get through these admin departments. Anyway, the chamber really focuses on membership and supporting membership, educating membership, training membership, more supporting membership, and a lot of other things in the community. But it's very tough for them to get into retail recruitment because sometimes they run into the issue of competition. And so he talked to his board and they said no too.
So they're fine with.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Having
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I just came up with an estimate for the salary of 65,000 as a hopefully one that would attract talent, but yet be in line with some of the other positions.
It's the 97.
Well, that's with benefits.
Yeah.
With benefits. I was gonna say, wow.
So that's with all the
Benefits are
benefits?
huge
That's with the benefit.
Yeah.
portion of our salaries.
Do they have to have a degree in this? Is that how you advertise?
We've looked at job descriptions. We're probably going to require that, but of course, we'll allow equivalency. But you can't, if you don't have a degree, and then you can't substitute that with 2 years of experience. Usually there's a formula for, if you require a college degree, then you have to have 2 years of experience for that or something. There's a set requirement for that.
I'm not trying to downplay the fact that we could possibly get someone local, but I'm assuming that we're going to advertise pretty
We are.
on a wide span.
Right, we are.
I mean, this is a pretty specific skill set.
It is. It is. It is. No, I agree with you. We're going to advertise. We usually do it nationally.
You haven't started the advertisement?
Oh, no, not until you approve
Hasn't
it.
been approved yet.
Not until you approve it.
Oh, okay.
That would be pretty gutsy of me.
But they're going to do it.
But anyway, well, the big hurdle though is meeting with the chamber, meeting with GGDC, and I think that they're supportive of this now. Because I think they understand that this is coordination and collaboration and not competition. It's the pieces that are not being done now that need to be done. Okay, so that's anything. Did I miss anything else? Thank you for the purple tab. Okay, if we can just do planning, animal control, and then is Deborah here to do biz? She is, okay.
Okay.
All right, so planning is just.
38.
Go back.
We ready?
Yep, please go ahead.
Are we still doing how many FTEs we have? Planning has 8 staff right now. I'm down 1. I'm down a administrative specialist. We're hoping to not advertise. The job closed last week, so we're hoping to interview this week sometime to fill the position. I've only had a few changes to my budget. Generally, we try and stay pretty flat every year and only, ask for what we need. But, COVID did change a lot of stuff in training and stuff like that. So now that the world's kind of getting back to normal a little bit, those trainings are becoming available again. But I'll just go ahead and go down. The first big change is the FTEs that I'm requesting.
Yes.
I'm requesting 2 additional code enforcement officers. And the reason I'm requesting these officers is just because we cannot keep up with the workload we have. The calls that come in and the amount of cases we have now is impossible for 2 code enforcement officers to keep up with. And it's challenging now because we're taking on a lot more than we used to with the motel inspections. And what's taking a lot of our time is the transient camps. That on top of the regular complaints we get on a daily basis, those come in all the time. And I'm sure you see them on C-Click or Gallup Connect. And you get calls. I know you get a lot of calls. So they're needed. And will it fix the problem? No, but it'll put a good dent in it to where we could at least breathe a little bit and reconfigure some things. And we used to have 4 when I first started here 20 years ago, and then it went down to 2. But it's really difficult, like I said, to keep up. So that's why we're asking for those. Again, we increased our overtime from 1,000 to 2,000. And that's mainly because my staff is very everybody's short-staffed in the city, but my staff in particular is very overworked. They stay at night and on the weekends. They come in on the weekends just to get caught up with paperwork because the amount of permits coming in. Our CIP books that we put together for you all, we were here till 9 o'clock at night putting those things together. So it's a lot of work. And we just don't have enough time during the day just to keep up with the regular work and everything like that. So plus, again, with the code enforcement officers, they're out after hours sometimes at these camps because you have to be on site while they're cleaning them up and things like that. So I asked for a slight increase in overtime. The other increase is travel. Again, travel and training is back. So I'm a real believer in keeping up to date with the current training as far as zoning goes, current case law, current new trends and things that are going on. And we're a member of the New Mexico League of Zoning Officials. And every year they have 2 trainings a year. And we like to go to those and we actually get certified as zoning officials through that training. They also provide commissioner training. So my planning and zoning commissioners, every 2 years they have training offered for them. And that's coming up this year. So we have the attorney from the municipal league give a full day's training, and it's really helpful for them. to keep them out of trouble, keep Curtis from having to defend them in court.
And we're planning on doing, it hasn't been said, but we've got new fire inspectors, we're hoping to have the we've got the new kind of public works, the job on can't recall exactly. It's paperwork that citation paperwork that procedure we need to hopefully, yeah, when you can get on the roof, use a fire truck, when you can.
Yeah, we had a lot of camps on top of the rooftops downtown, so we had to get up on, yeah. And of course,
Hopefully, late August.
yeah. Going down, fuel purchases, of course, if I get the 2 positions, then I'm gonna need additional units, which adds up to additional fuel, plus fuel costs are going up, and we have to cover for that. So we put that at 5,000. Uniforms, again, if I get the code enforcement officers, I'm gonna need uniforms for them. The uniforms are for code enforcement officers and my building inspector. Everybody else just use the regular clothes plus, but we do get 1 polo a year. I have a drawer like with 20 of them, so I haven't gotten one in a number of years. I have plenty to last me. And again, the next line is employee training. I mentioned the zoning training, but we also have training for code enforcement. We're going to try and get a sponsor a training here that we did a couple of years ago, and other entities can participate, and we get a huge discount for that. We sponsor it, and they go through the self-defense and all things like that. And that's it for the changes to my planning budget. Otherwise, it's pretty flat. Everything remains pretty much the same. I'll stand for any questions if you have any.
The 20,000 CB in professional services.
Professional services, that's gone down a lot. Years ago, I used to have like a $45,000, $50,000 budget, but that goes for if we have to do engineering services, like hired to Polly to do a survey for us or something, or if we're doing a city initiated replat, or if we're rezoning a piece of property that's ours and we need a meets and bounds description, things like that. Or any other professional service. Also amendments to our code. When we do code amendments to our land development standards, we have our consultant that formats it for us and inserts it into the document. So things like that.
And then I know I met with your team recently. It was really helpful and a lot of information, but could you just state like for the record too of like how much you guys are doing in services for the like homeless camps? Because I was really shocked at the process of like police having to be there and then you guys having to
The
be
process. Well, we'll get a complaint. We'll get a location. Actually, we have, I think we're up to 15 now that we're working on. We'll get a complaint. We'll go in and do an investigation. And we used to use our clean and lean. Actually, we do use our clean and lean, but what we used to do is cite the property owner and put a lien on it and have them pay the lien. And if we don't do that anymore, we use our clean and lean and we just cover the cost for cleanup because it's really out of their control most of the time. And they just pop up overnight and you'll have, a whole city set up in a matter of hours, basically, and we have to go clean it. So as a service, we do that for them. So what it entails is we'll go and investigate. If we do find a camp, then we'll get the set team from the police department, which I think they're down to 1 staff now. They used to have like 4, now they're down to 1. So they'll go down with code enforcement. They'll go down with code enforcement to the camp because code enforcement aren't trained police officers. They're just property maintenance. That's it. Oftentimes they'll find people there that they have warrants for. We made some arrests down there. They've caught some people they've been looking for. So they're there for safety, one thing, and then to search for people that might have warrants out for them. So they'll clear the camp for us. We'll then call our contractor to go down and give us an estimate for the cleanup. And it could range anywhere from $4,000 or $5,000 on up to $20,000, $30,000, depending on the size of the camp and what's there. A lot of hazardous materials, a lot of drugs, a lot of needles, things like that they got to be wary of. So we'll get it cleaned up. We'll go back and take pictures, show that the camp has been abated. We'll close the case and then pay, and then move on to the next one. Basically, we're just chasing them all over
One
town.
camp to another.
Yeah.
But that is funded by the environmental surtax, not the general fund.
We've got a proposal for next year on page 95, environmental surcharge. There's $150,000 in there.
Oh, good. We need it.
Activity costs.
Yeah. And we pretty much spend that every year pretty easy. Yeah.
How much have you used so far this year, do you think?
This year, I would have to ask my, we've already spent it, we're in the
Used it
hole.
all, okay.
So I'll be coming to you to ask for more money here pretty soon.
According to this, they spent
75,000 already this year to clean up camps.
CB, when you get the two additional employees, are they for each district or just as you're called out? for?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Garcia, we used to do that. When we had four officers, it was one per district. Because things have changed, I'm thinking about changing that a little bit to have one officer designated just for transient camps to go with the police and just focus on transient camp. When we do motel inspections during the year, I'll have one officer dedicated to that because that takes up a lot of time. And that'll leave two free to do the other code enforcement cases. So I think by doing it that way, we'll be able to cover a lot more territory and take care of a lot more complaints. On the downtime, we might, separate them out and do districts like in the winter and stuff like that. But during the summer and the spring, they'll have a lot to do. Yeah. So I think if we do it that way, we'll be able to take care of a lot more business.
Is there one area of town that gets more calls than others? Go into that.
Honestly,
Oh,
it's not designated to one part of town. It's all over the place. And it's
The best though.
Yeah, but CB, I think it would be, I understand you're saying specialization with the motels and encampments, but if you have two that are doing, it would be great to have this one do east and this do west or north or
Yeah,
south or whatever.
we
That
can do
way, like when you have neighborhood meetings, there's the
I know
same
that
person
one I'm
who's going to that meeting.
the way it's done now is one officer takes care of two districts, the other officer takes care of two districts. So we'll do the same thing, but have the other two focus on the specialties like the camps and the hotel.
And then on the camps.
And we include Deborah. I'm sorry, Deborah. We include Deborah as well. She goes with us and for assistance on, a lot of times we'll show up there and there's kids there and there's families there that are
Good homes there,
displaced.
yeah.
So she tries to help them out and get them help. So I don't know how successful we've been doing that,
To
but
get with you on that one camp that has kids.
one's better than none. But
Yeah, and then my last question is, mine is on the north side, underneath the underpass, the overpasses, the underpasses.
10th Street, yeah.
Are they gonna, when we get the new additional employees, will they also clean out that area? Because it's
That's-
really bad.
That's a constant. It's on the list. We get it cleaned up and then they go right back in there.
Yeah,
So
there was like 12 when I went.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago.
now I heard they're in the tunnels, there's tunnels underneath the city of Gallup and people have been seeing smoke coming up through through the ground. So they're in there starting fires. So it's just constant. We clean them and they go right back. But you have to, we can't just let them sit there. It's just something that we're gonna have to resign ourselves so that we're just gonna have to pay for it.
Any other questions?
It's bad.
Next. There's
Thank
no
you,
other question.
Thank you, CB.
That's on page 52.
Animal control is on page 52. So again, animal control, thank God we're fully staffed now. We have 4 officers and 1 supervisor or manager. And because of that, I did ask for an increase. With COVID, we weren't able to take a lot of after hours emergency calls just because we didn't have the staff, number one, and because of the situation and a lot of things changed. We're now back to normal. So we're taking all the calls. We're doing on-call hours for the officers. So they're on call at night. They all take turns. And because of that, they're accumulating more overtime. So we upped it from 20 to 25,000 for overtime. We have a tremendous amount of calls. for animal control. It's unreal.
How about our cats? Are they still one cage?
Cats, we have a problem with because they're overpopulating right now. And the issue we're having right now, and it's not really anybody's fault. It's just that our facility isn't big enough and we're always at capacity. And we can't adopt out any animals, or Humane Society can't adopt out any animals because nobody's transporting, because the whole nation is having the same problem. During COVID, everybody was homebound and they wanted pets for company.
Oh, no.
Now that they went back to work, they let them out and they let them go. So now we have a bunch of strays running around, and that's throughout the whole country. So it's not just tied to here. So the cities that we used to transport animals for adoption, they'll maybe take 1 or 2 dogs at a time where we used to be transporting out like 30, 35 dogs. What's that?
Are they euthanizing animals now?
As little as possible. We don't like to, unless they're sick or something's wrong with them or they're aggressive, then we have to. But it might come to that, unfortunately. We don't want to, but you know, it's the Humane Society's responsibility to make sure that these animals get transported. And like I said, it's not their fault. Nobody's taking them. And we can't stuff 3 or 4 dogs in the cage. That's not good.
And that's
So,
what you guys said that's happening now, right? With the outside cages, there's like 4 or 5 dogs in
Yeah.
one outside cage.
yeah, so we're at capacity, and the cat issue is a big issue because for some reason people love to feed cats, stray cats, and they populate. And Patty's one of them. I'm just kidding, Patty.
She's in the county.
The county too.
Every one of them was spayed and neutered, no matter how many we had, with the exception one Tom had.
Oh.
You gotta explain to me. I'm just saying. But anyway, there is a big overpopulation of cats in the city. It's huge. It's just huge. And we only have a certain amount of traps. We try and trap them, and everybody wants a trap. But when we cover the whole county, it's just
Well, more than one.
it's a nightmare.
Well,
It really is.
Are you still doing, or is it? Trap, spaying and use for cats? I don't know.
Yes.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Humane Society does that.
Maybe in some of the areas, meeting, trying to get better promotion out there, so they know, I mean, they'll continue feeding them, no matter what. They'll keep it more of a cat.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
They do that.
That lady, we did have, when I had neighborhood meeting, a lady came from the Humane Study and was telling all the people about how they trap them and then spay or neuter and then release them back. And they do serve a purpose of catching mice and all that. And people will feed them, but if they're not overpopulated, they're okay. They'll live outside and,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, but it's the non-spayed and neutered.
Yeah. So because we're fully staffed now, we needed to bump up our fuel budget to $9,000, and because of the fuel costs. And the only other line item was in employee training. That's available again, so we need to get our officers certified in euthanasia and just the regular training on how to catch a dog, you know, how to be safe and all that stuff. So those trainings are very important. Those are the only 3 line items that we increased. The rest is pretty flat from the year before. And we try and stay pretty consistent and not too aggressive on the spending. So I think we did a good job at maintaining a reasonable budget. With that, I'll stand for your questions if you have.
What is the 54,000 for the elk ranch? Where is that?
That is for vet services. We contract out per the RFP, we contract out for shelter services and vet services. Shelter services are through the Humane Society. Veterinary services are through Dr. Bollock, and that's at the elk ranch. He owns the elk ranch.
Oh, it's at the ranch? It's not the Humane Society where it is?
No, they do it at the Humane Society. It's just where his business is based at it,
I have a major question about this. I don't understand why.
or
we
what
do
it's
this.
called.
I thought this was like they're a private practice. Like, is it normal for cities to invest into humane societies?
No. What we do is, well, I mean, yes.
Yeah, we actually RFP
Yeah.
for that service, and they were the only responders to the service. And then we contract. We're not giving them money. We're
Right.
contracting for a service.
Contract with them for that service, but then any income that they make, they keep, right? Like if they have a fundraiser or they do anything, then that goes.
Yes.
They're nonprofit, yeah. They take donations, they have fundraisers and all that, and it's generally just enough to upkeep the shelter and pay their staff. We don't pay their salaries or anything. I mean, we probably do through what we pay them per year, but it's $175,000 we pay them a year for the Humane Society.
And then there's spay and neuter, there's transport out when they used to do that. So there are other services that they provide that they fundraise for. So. The other, I just want to go back to the mayor's comment though about the 54,000. That's actually rent of land and buildings. And once we close on that property,
You're
well,
right. I'm
right
sorry.
when we close on that property, that should go away. But as far as I know, we haven't closed on this property yet. Can we please do this before May 10th?
Well, I sent a draft purchase agreement to Jeremy Gay again,
Yeah.
last week. He's very busy. Shaking hands, taking babies.
So, but that's what that's for. But Mayor, that's for the rent of the lease of the building that, yeah, but if we haven't bought it yet, we have to.
Let's quit paying on it, that'll move them faster.
Well, no, because then they could evict the animals and us.
Not the interest off of it.
Well, but we have to pay the lease until we actually buy it, so we don't know what's gonna
Yeah,
happen.
but they're the ones that are dragging their feet, not
No,
us.
but what I'm saying is we have to have legal use of the property to keep the animals there. We don't have another solution.
So we're buying the building,
And once we do, then that would go away.
but we're still paying the 170 whatever contract.
That
or-
would stay in place.
Yeah.
not Separate from the building.
And the vet services. I was, in there, I caught that, she's correct. The vet services and the Humane Society shelter services are under professional services, and that's $280,000, and that's all that's paid out of that.
And we pay 200, so that 280,000 goes to the Humane Society for vet services and.
It goes to the Humane Society and to Dr. Bollock. Two separate.
Two separate
separate.
RFPs.
Oh my gosh, we're basically just covering like their whole business, I feel like.
Not, Dr. Balick is no longer in business as a private vet. He just responded to the RFP for vet services. And we'll go out again, I forget, I think it's this August.
Actually, we have, it's up in 2 years, but we have the option to renew for an additional 2 years.
Okay.
So I think we're going to renew it for an additional 2 years. So we have friends buried in RFPs right now, so we can do that. And actually, I mean, it seems like a lot of money, but it's actually not. I mean, it's pretty fair what they're charging us. It's not an exorbitant amount. And for what they do, we get the amount of animals that come through that shelter is ridiculous. And probably we get like 4,000 animals a year, and more than half of those are coming from the reservation, and they don't help us at all with anything. So we foot the cost for that. And in fact, they're encouraged to bring them to our shelter because they can't take them. And this is not, this is across state lines that they're bringing them.
And also keep in mind that we cover the county, which you just reminded me.
Yes,
to
we cover the
say.
county.
And they pay 40%, not of capital,
But they pay 40% of budget.
right, a budgeted amount, right. So they're paying 40% of the costs in this budget, except for capital.
Yeah, so the cost of the personnel operations,
County.
we think it should be different. 40, 60, but building.
Yeah. Good deal.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
CB, you're awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to move, let's see, it's 3:00. We're really running behind about an hour. Wait, let's do Deborah, right? And then we'll stop and maybe take a break, and then we're really going to have to take a.
That's just kind of easy.
Have to pick
Can I go with you?
granddaughter, take her to Red Rock Park, and
158.
then I could come back, but
58.
I leave at 4.
58.
158 or 58?
What
Maybe you
page?
got 5 minutes.
158, so. I'll take 2.
158.
158.
Mayor, Council, Deborah Martinez, Behavior Health. As you see, our budget is really not in there. We do have the funds in there for LET. We had projected that and we met with the county and we're hoping to bring the resolution to you next city council for the liquor excise tax. We have 3 funds under behavioral health, the liquor excise tax, the PARD funding, which is 1.5 million. You won't see it in here because we operate on a federal fiscal year. So we don't bring that to city council until before September, around September. We also operate and use LEAD funding. And once we get that grant resolution, we'll bring that to city council. And that's usually 150,000 to 200,000.
And what is that lead funding?
The law enforcement assisted diversion grant, we work with GPD. They divert referrals into the program. A part of that is what Nicole manages, and that's how we've been going out to assist CB. And Counselor probably checks a part of that. So. I forgot to mention that. We are working with the fire department to receive the FR CARA grant, and that is an overdose prevention and relapse prevention grant. We'll be hiring a social worker and EMT, and whoever overdoses, we're gonna have to coordinate that information. So whenever somebody overdoses, we'll send a team out there to educate them on Narcan or whatever to get into treatment, whatever they may need. So we have a good amount of funding to buy a lot of Narcan. It's pretty expensive. 2 of the nasal sprays are $75. So they're giving us funding to purchase that and then do a lot of education. The 2 individuals that we hire will be the trainers, so they'll be able to provide that service to anybody. So we'll be working closely with the fire department. So we'll have a grant with the fire department and we'll have a grant with the police department.
How much is that funding possibly?
Well, we're gonna get a portion of it until June, but the whole grant for the whole fiscal year is 130,000.
And then through that, you'll hire those 2, social worker and EMT through that,
Yeah.
and they'll be a licensed social worker?
We asked them because it's hard to get licensed providers here. So we asked them if we could get a peer support worker, and they said that they will work with us. We have a hard time getting licensed substance abuse counselors in the community. They either just jump around or a new one comes.
I know I worry about that because I mean, when you deal with that kind of stuff, having a licensed person is so much better because they're qualified in such a stronger way than a peer support worker would be.
Well, there's actually data that supports the benefits of a peer because they've known, they've been through it. They can, associate with this person. So they have to be in recovery for 3 years. They go through a course through the state and then they have to get onboarding hours and then they have to take a test.
Downside is co-occurring.
Yeah.
They're not trained to deal with it often, get over.
And which overall in McKinley County, we don't have a lot of master's level counselors here in general. We are working on a project though, May 3rd, if you guys are available. We have a grow our own project. We're having a panel of licensed counselors here in the Almoro Event Center, and then we're having a job and career fair here just to get people interested in the field. And then we have a clinical supervisor who's working with people to look over their documents to see what they need to become a licensed counselor and kind of guiding them from there. And as of April 9th, we had 23 people registered to be in this program.
As you can see, Deborah's been busy. We started out with the BIZ program, in 2015 or 2016, and Deborah's managed to grow a lot of programs with just her and one person. It's pretty amazing. And buy the Lexington and get that going too. So thank you, Deborah, if we don't say it enough. Any other questions for Deborah? Okay, did you want to take a break now or you want to keep going or how do you want to do this? Okay, great.
Right? You want to
next? I guess, tourism, huh?
All right, show.
I think we're gonna start with the, we're gonna start with the Amaro.
This is yours without the thing.
You wanna call him? Oh, he's back there.
What page?
What page are we on?
879.
78.
You just want to go ahead and just hit any changes, key issues with your budget. We need to keep it fairly brief.
I mean, the only thing that we had as far as changes was our non-cap fix. We're asking for, I believe, an extra $3,000. And that's because of the Main Street contract with the office. If we need to move our office, we need to buy new office equipment and supplies for the upstairs office. But that's the only big changes that we had in our budget.
I'm so sorry. Can you just repeat that? What was it for?
I'm sorry?
So that extra 10,000, I didn't hear the beginning.
So it's $3,000. It's for office equipment and supplies.
Okay.
So currently we have a contract with Main Street where the city gives the Main Street office or gives Main Street director an office.
Okay.
So if that happens, when Main Street needs an office, I'm gonna move my office upstairs into the theater.
So the Main Street office is right where you're at now?
No, they're at a different location down the street.
Oh.
So
The Main Street is using, Dolph, is that his name? The building where Martinez Indian Jewelry used to be. They have an entrepreneur center in there and they've been, the Main Street's been holding their office hours in that space because the acting Main Street director has only been having 3 days a week of office hours. So while they're maintaining that entrepreneur space, they've been meeting down there. But when he begins construction on that building, based on our current contract with Main Street, we are obligated to provide them with an office space. So the space on Cole Avenue would be it.
And that's the one that's right next door to the Alvaro?
The company, yeah. So right now that is his office. And when that transition takes place, we'll move him upstairs. Because there's that big former apartment.
I won't have all the crazies bothering me when I'm upstairs.
Kind of a zoo exhibit on Cole Avenue.
A nice apartment.
That is a nice part.
It is though. People stand in the windows and stare at you while you're working.
So is the extra supplies just for the expense of the rent, or what is it for?
So it's brand new, like desk, like a desk and office supplies like that. Because
But wouldn't that be a capital equipment?
It's under 5.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, the furniture that's currently in that space was built in the space by Fitz Sargent. It's wrought iron and can't be moved out of the space. And it actually, the furniture is owned by the bid. So it's just best if we leave the furniture in that room.
Okay.
other than that, I mean.
Did you have any changes to utilities? No, those are the
No,
same.
everything stayed the same basically as last year.
Oh, how many positions do you have? Full-time positions?
We have one full-time position and that's me. And then I have 4 part-time employees.
Or part-time?
Yeah.
All right, how much, but
Do you want popcorn? Do you want popcorn? Because he's. Okay. Thanks, Everett. Oh, hey, before you go, really quickly, will you tell, I announced this at city staff on Monday morning. Can you tell them what you're doing with the League of Historic Theaters?
So I got asked to sit in on a panel for fully functioning or fully operational historic theaters in America. We're one of 5 historic theaters that are fully operating 5 days a week or more. And since we're 7 days a week, they had asked me to speak on this panel about it, like operations, what we do, bookings, all that stuff. So I'll be sitting on that panel. And then I've also been asked to create my own panel where young people, because I'm 32 years old, so that's young for them. A lot of the historic theater managers, owners are retired, or they just have money and just want to build a historic theater or remodel historic theater. So I've been asked to create a panel for young folks who are interested in the historic theater world. I talk a lot about my experiences here. I just had talked to her about it because I've been working 14 days straight here because of being short staffed and whatnot. But they just want to know about like my experiences as a theater manager, why I chose to be a historic theater manager. I always like to say, if you asked me 5 years ago if I was going to be managing a historic theater, I would have called y'all crazy and laughed at you. But I love it. So they just love that I, as a young person, really involved in the historic theater world. So I was just asked to sit in on and create my own panel to talk about that.
When
So,
and where?
July in Cleveland. So yeah, that's where I'll be headed in July.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
That's great.
Yeah. Basically, I guess you could say that. All right.
Thanks, Everett.
Yeah.
Okay. 2014 tourism.
Somewhere around 100, yeah, I was gonna say 118. Fund 214, page 118 is the.
Oh, what are we doing, tourism or Red Rock Park?
Tourism.
Okay.
They're all under the same fund, so we're gonna go over fund 214 now.
What page was that? 118?
118.
118.
Fund 17 has just the numbers for the department, 118 has the-
My points.
So this year, the biggest change is this. Lodger's tax is collected, and when it comes in, did you go over this earlier, Patty? I don't know if you've gone over really briefly. So as it's collected, it gets split 60-40.
It must be 150. What are we on?
We're at 117.
118, okay. whatever.
Are we on lodger's tax?
Mhm.
Oh, okay, I'm 115.
Go 3 more pages, you should be,
17.
117 or more?
yeah, 117, 118 are the 2 pages we'll look at.
Probably looking at the revenue. Yeah, 115 is the revenue. She's gonna talk about the split. A lot of the controversy.
Oh. Okay. Long story, as the money's coming in, it gets split right off the bat, 60% events, facilities, attraction, 40% marketing. When we chose to pull $500,000 from the reserve for Red Rock Park, Patty and I looked at it because the reporting we have to expend within a certain time frame. We realized that we had some time. We had a need to make up the difference in the 40%. So there's going to be more, there's more marketing money this year, 1. And 2, that's because we have this 2-year time frame to balance the 2 sides of the column, if you will. Do you want to elaborate on that, or did I explain it pretty well? So the only change you're seeing, so 214, 1015, which are pages 117 and 118. This is the marketing stuff. I will actually give you guys in your mailboxes. When I trained Keisha Candelaria last week, I wrote a document that lists everywhere we market, all of that stuff. So I'll provide that for you later because I don't get into the specifics of every vendor, but we're doing everything from print, digital, social media. There are 20 billboards. So those are, I'm working on new designs for those in the next year. Just a lot of getting the word out about our community. The event fund is fully restored. So I'll be taking, in fact, on May 10th, we had a Lodgers Tax Committee last week. So I'll be taking a bunch of event grant recommendations up on May 10th to City Council. So it pretty much kind of, we're almost back at, we're financially back to numbers at 2019. And in terms of supporting events, there's no conflict there. We don't have the problems we did in 20 and 21. So that's going to be fine. But that's kind of the impact on this is there's more marketing money here than there has been before. It'll go back down again next year once it levels out. Are there any questions about the marketing money?
The grants, the stub recipients who, what would that look? What was that, or what does that look like?
So grants to sub-recipients is the fund that we use to support local events. So that's the quarterly Lodgers tax asks from events. In fact, so last week, the events that applied for lodger's tax were Wild Thing. There were 3 events from Waldetti, 1 Lions Club event, TDFL. There is a new event from the Red Rock Motorsports folks. So they're not going to be doing a competitive event. They're going to do something called a rally ride, where it's a family style ride where they actually have everybody meet and then they break into groups and kind of OHV, ATV tour around the whole community. So you're actually going to see them maybe downtown and more. It's a new style of ride because families are less interested in competing than they are in kind of cruising and getting to know a destination. So they're organizing one of those for the first time this year in July. There's Kicker Arena Cross is back. Trying to think if anybody else, major applications in that pile. So that'll all come to council on May 10th. But that's what grants to subrecipients is. The idea with the marketing is to balance. There's a portion of this that is a match for grants from the state. We've been very fortunate. New Mexico Tourism Department gives us a 2-to-1 match on marketing dollars. So there's a bunch there with social media and more, plus event marketing and more. I'll put that sheet in your mailboxes for you so you can see everywhere we're marketing.
And what are professional services?
Hmm?
What's under professional services?
That is typically 3 different contracts. Public relations, earned media. So I have a vendor that meets with travel writers to get them to write about Gallup. I have a vendor who manages my contract with the state for my tourism cooperative grant. They do the design of the ads. They help manage the social media because there's so much of it. So they help create all the posts. They source all the photos, that kind of stuff. So those are the professional service. The other thing in there is the website fees.
And then so this other services, is that falling within the marketing? I guess marketing, the visitor's guide and the Gallup Cultural Center marketing is marketing.
Yes, so the cultural center contract for operations and things is in there's 2 budgets for lodger's tax. So this is just the marketing budget. The chamber, visitor center, and the marketing of programs at the cultural center are in this budget, but all of the programs for the cultural center are in the other tourism budget, which we'll get to next. Because the marketing is on the 40% side, but anything that's program or event related that's not marketing is in the 60% side, so they have different account numbers.
So we pay lodger's tax funding to the Gallup Cultural Center, and then we also, in addition, pay marketing for them.
Yes. In this previous year, we had a contract where they marketed themselves. And when I met with them, it's beyond the scope that they're capable of doing. They want to focus more on the programs and the events happening there. They don't have a marketing person within the Southwest Indian Foundation who has the skills to be able to market the programs there. So we talked about that just staying a city item and not being a contract with them. So it's in other services because most likely I will contract to have that executed, but not with them.
And so, okay, so I guess I'm gonna ask this question. So who decided that we weren't gonna have the dances at the right here at the courthouse square? You did, or they did, or somebody. We weren't consulted. We were never asked if we wanted to move from up there to down there. And I want to know on what authority did you do that? I just want to ask that because I'm very upset about that being moved from there to over here. So I guess you can tell me.
The chamber been wanting me down some of the contracts, so that's something that we agree that.
But you know, I can remember, I was on council at that time, but I was at a council meeting. And Bill Lee made the statement that the attendance at the courthouse had been dwindling and going down, and they were actually wanting to cut it back to 3 days a week or so. But that was the beginning. And of course, the second thing is when Bill McCarthy and Chuck Van Druin came to us and said, look, we're putting on this event every Friday night.
Right, I remember that.
And they were drawing more and more people.
But that's for bands. It wasn't for dances.
Well, they had dances too. Yeah, they had dances. They were rotating. One night they'd have concerts, they'd have a concert band out there. And then the next weekend they'd have a dance program, you know. So I don't know. I think it just generally pushed over to that side because.
But he never
everybody
said
thought the
no.
courthouse was
He never
dwindling.
said he wasn't gonna do it, just that they're gonna come back. They're doing the same thing 3 nights a week. What's the difference?
Well, I mean.
I thought it was to improve what they had been doing, to have a funding stream for what they were doing on Friday nights or whatever, to do something. They never specifically had talked about, we're gonna have the Indian dances over here, the native dances over here. We're gonna stop having them in court. That I know was never said at that meeting. I know, I checked, I looked after this last meeting at all of the minutes from every meeting in last year. And I did not find a thing about that being moved. And I was caught off guard when that was said. And
I think, so Jennifer's gonna bring to you a program to Courthouse Square. And they have a decent house. And she's got some programs. Coordinate some there and some there.
And the reality
I would
is,
like that.
the reality is that, I wasn't here before, but the contract is up in June. So if the council votes that they don't want to renew the contract with Swift unless they bring it back to the Courthouse Square, that is something the council. Oh. Right, that was under the chamber, but the dances are kind of included in the contract. They were rolled into their existing contract, right? So they have them now.
Yeah, they did that.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean you can't vote. I had. I mean, the idea is, as was said by Jerry Shea, they were really not with us. Let's work together to try to. I don't think it's.
I just kind of want, I was on the council and I want to echo what Fran said, though. I think, I'm not trying to put blame on different people. I know we're trying. But I think it put the council in a bad place because I looked at the Swift contract. I wasn't here when that contract was brought, and it says to expand on dances, but it doesn't, to Fran's point, say that it was going to be moved from the Cross Square to the Cultural Center. And I understand the reasons for people wanting to move to the Cultural Center, but and I'm sure all the council has had just many upset people in the community that have just reached out and are really unhappy. I have people reaching out all the time on Facebook saying, why were they moved? We don't like this. Why were they moved? And I think they put the council in a bad spot because we're the ones that have to answer to the public, and the public isn't happy. And so we weren't aware, or it seems like the council, as it was before I joined, wasn't aware that there wasn't a clause in the contract that the council approved that said, yes, this is gonna be moved. And then the council said, yes, we approve it. It was more like, we approve the new.
Well, that they were going to do dances and other demonstrations.
But they didn't let us know. We were blindsided.
Well, it didn't say before. It said they were. But I encourage us to continue to do.
Absolutely.
It was pretty much it.
I think the things Terry are doing is great.
Yeah,
I just.
so, but
Yeah,
what you need to
that's
talk
not the
about
point.
is do you, what else do you want to do? You want to do something and
There's for 2 people to decide.
I'd like to add one of the things I did mention at council on Tuesday, that when I learned of the additional money on Tuesday morning, I reached out. There was a guest in the room, Candelaria was there. I spoke with him Thursday, the next morning. And Family Gonzalez, Wowie, you guys met this morning, and they would like to propose with me a program of multiple nights a week of different entertainment downtown. If you'd like to consider go to May 10th council, but Tuesday nights would be a family night with children's activities. Thursday nights would be country dancing downtown, and there would be other activities, but that is entirely up to you. I'm bringing it to council on May 10th for your consideration to complement, so that we've got something for everybody. The dances are beautiful. This is a complicated situation. I realize that. I'm just going to do the best I can with the direction I give it. So basically,
Yeah, I think, I think that it's just that I want to say it for myself. I appreciate that we're trying to do the activities downtown and utilize the park square. I do appreciate that. But at the same time, it's not that. It's not that people don't appreciate the activities being downtown. The people are telling us as a council, they're not specifically about the dances being moved. And that's what we're trying to say. It's not that they're not happy that there's other activities. They're saying the dances, sure, other activities, but the dances we wanted at Crossroads. That's the whole issue. And so I'm telling you, and I'm just telling you from the people that have reached out to me, and it sounds like Fran and Linda as well. And I think that's, I don't think they care if Swift has the contract, but they want them at Courthouse Square.
But they want to continue, and not the country
We were just
dances,
surprised that they got
put them
moved
over there
from
at the
here
conference
to
center.
there, because I read this
Right.
contract and I don't see anywhere it says that they're gonna be moving the dances.
Right.
Again, the chamber did your dances at the downtown plaza.
Right,
not Square.
right. We know that.
So why don't you use a contract with the chamber to do dances there at different. Or we can ask for.
Yeah, Terry Fraser is employed by Swift, and Terry was the chamber's contractor.
That's
So
right.
Right, she's done the
that's the other
dances.
consideration is wherever you would like to have the dances, we would just go back to the table with whoever Terry is working with and go from there.
No, it gives us a chance for next year to see what the reaction's gonna be.
We see
Period.
the reaction now.
I don't know.
Anyway, so May 10th on the agenda.
So can we go to, we haven't actually gone through the 4042 account. So we go to the 4042, which is page. 121. There's one notable change. So this is the operations, facilities, and events budget. The one notable change is adding an additional person. I reviewed my job description this morning, as a matter of fact, and there are many things well beyond where it started that I'm doing now. I need all the help.
Well,
This is the 18.
Now, what line item is it, Jennifer? Sorry.
Okay, God, the rest of the.
Yeah, well, so she initially began with a part-time discussion when we had our budget hearings. We determined as a committee that it didn't make sense to try and do it as a part-time employee, so we have brought it as a full-time employee at 47,000. So it would be something in the name of a market coordinator.
And what would the marketing coordinator be mostly handling?
Right now, we outsource almost all of our graphic design unless it's the local stuff. And so honestly, Sarah, this job is, sales, marketing, public relations, community and business development, and the lodgers tax. So weeks like last week, when we have a lodgers tax meeting, having somebody on hand that could be assisting with that meeting, handling the minutes, so that I can be working on, like right now, we've got Gallup coming in, and so working on developing all of the marketing campaigns for the airport, so someone can keep other programs moving along, updating the website, updating the kiosks that we're buying for the community, kind of the nuts and bolts of that stuff, and also hoping to train them so that they can learn to do the graphic design components, so we don't have to outsource.
And what is in the business development? What is?
For example, when I built the website, I had to contact over 100 different community businesses to get descriptions, work on photography. So making sure that we can keep that up. And I've spent a lot of time over the last 3 years training different businesses on how to do social media, how to update their Google listings, things like that. So having another person learning that skill set, that way I'm unavailable. There's 2 of us that can go meet with businesses and teach them how to do those things. In fact, I met with one today that throws events and stuff and was very excited to learn that as they're planning an event, they can how to apply for lodger's tax. The guy said, I'm not good at paperwork. He said, okay, when you want to apply, let's talk and I will bring my laptop to your office. So those kinds of things, it's able to get more done with 2 people.
And this is, this shall be advertised statewide, or how do you?
Through our City Gallup HR department, they post on the City Gallup website, and depending on what their other marketing resources are, it will be posted through our HR department.
Too, that when I asked Jennifer if she could take on marketing for the airport and Advanced Air and Fly Gallup and all the incredibly important things that have to be done to get passengers to utilize this airline, I promised her that we would support a position in the budget because she can't take that on without it.
The culture center.
Questions? Oh yeah, tell them to come on in.
Thank you, Jennifer.
What's 100,000 for the cultural center?
That is up to you guys to decide how that will be allocated next year. The current contract that we issued them was 60,000 when Chuck met with.
I knew it.
So I put 100,000 in there. That can be for the cultural center. It can be for dances, other programs. At the time, I just put it in cultural center. Really is up to you guys in your direction what you would like to do. But it's there so that we have money there to do those things.
So just a clarification question. So that 100,000, I guess I'm just confused. I mean, I love SWIFT. I think they're a great program, but it just seems like we're supplementing a lot of income for what SWIFT is doing operationally. And so I'm just curious, I mean, like we're potentially doing $100,000 for services. So like, I mean, why don't we just run it? Why don't we just contract out and hire an employee? I don't know. Like, why are we giving so much money to SWIFT to run? I guess that's just, maybe I don't understand.
Counselors, the Southwest Indian Foundation approached the assistant city manager and the city manager and the mayor in fall of 2021. Yes. About the fact that they wanted to go a different direction. So Billy brought in Chuck McDermott and met with those parties, and they kind of determined the scope of work. And as city staff, we were basically, it was like, okay, we're all going to get on board because this is the direction our management has given us. So the choices I've made in the last year was after that, initially when that contract went to council, I didn't have money. And that I didn't even realize it at the time, and things have changed since then, but really just trying to do the best I could in the circumstances at the time. And now we're in a much better position with the way lodger's tax has been behaving to be able to support multiple things. So your council, you guys voted on those contracts in September in 2021, and it's really up to you in the direction you would like to go, identifying what the tourism assets are and how you would like to see them utilized, expanded, whatever it is. Really, as a staff member, it's my prerogative to just take what initiative I am given and run with it. So if you guys don't want to fund the cultural center to a certain degree, or if you want to fund other programs downtown, that's your call. I mean, and that's what that money's there for. I put that money in simply because after identifying that we've given them $60,000, I kind of sat back and went, well, I don't know if this is a one-time thing, or if it seems like a thing to continue to support those programs. It's been very successful so far. But it's, I was given direction in September of 2021 as soon as those contracts were signed to make it work. And I will continue to make whatever I'm advised to do work.
So just clarification, I understand that we're giving them currently through the 3 contracts, $60,000 a year, correct? And then this 100,000 for 2023 would be your but that's from lodger's tax.
Yes.
So then this is This 100,000 also from lodger's
Yeah,
tax?
lodger's tax, this is the 60%. So currently $40,000 comes from the event side and $20,000 comes from the marketing side. And they don't want to do the marketing side next year if they don't, because they don't have the capacity to within their foundation. And so the 100 would be programs, operations, whatever it would be. And again, it could be cultural center, it can be, when I wrote the description in there, that was something to put on the line saying there's $100,000 available for what we're going to do.
And the contracts for whatever you use that for would have to come back to council for approval.
Exactly. And at the time, so that contract was approved in September of 21, so it was for 60. So I chose 100 because there's 4 more months than there were in the previous contract.
Well, I would think give Swift 50,000 and give the chamber 50,000. Each one runs 3 nights a week. 3 nights down there, 3 nights over here. And they have the dances. And split it 50-50.
We already did the contract for 60,000, right? So we don't.
But
have to stay with the contract for
that ends
60,000.
at first.
The only issue is timing, because this budget is not until July 1. So if you want to start the chamber with nightly Indian dances a couple days a week, that has to start sooner.
Let me ask this one question, and this is just a semantics thing. This is not a, since Terry is an employee of Southwest Indian Foundation and she was the chamber's contractor to do the dances, would you consider contracting the Southwest Indian Foundation to do the dances in both locations? She's already their employee. And that's entirely.
I think we need to talk to the chamber, see
Who
what
do they want to contract with? I mean, there's got to be more than one person in the town of Gallup that knows how to get a hold of native dancers.
Yeah,
I mean,
and that's what I was asking, is this we just getting direction?
Yeah,
That way there'd be dances, nightly dances downtown. 3 nights down there, 3 nights over here. I know tourists that come to the motels like to go to those dances.
It for how long? So if it's okay with you, let us talk to both the chamber and Swift and see what the best option is to do that.
And I want to state for the record, I think Terry's kind of put in the middle, right? She contracts with Swift. I've talked to Terry. She's kind of like, I'll do whatever is everyone wants and what's best. So I do feel a little bad for her because she came in after these contracts were signed. So I'm not blaming Terry in any way, but
They put her in the middle.
I do think we should figure that out. Because there was a lot of.
Just if we can let us see what works best. And we'll bring it back to you soon.
Thank you.
Excellent. No, it's no problem. I mean, like I said, it's my job is to make it happen. We will.
Awesome.
Yeah, Vince, I think. we should-
Vince?
Oh, he's back.
Yeah, you're, the largest tax fund. You're not part of this overseas.
I'm not reading this.
That's why.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's what he's.